don't know if this happens to you guys, but do you ever get that feeling scrolling through your newsfeed when you see that a story is clearly blowing up and you have no idea what it's about, and you're like, okay, great. Now I have to learn about a completely new topic. Well, that's what happened to me. Now I have to learn about like the NBA, which I don't care about, and its expansion into Chinese markets. That was me this morning. Oh, the NBA is trending. Oh, China is trending. Great. Now I have to learn about this. So I did. And now I am an expert. So in Hong Kong, there are all these people protesting. There are all these people throwing a fit. I mean, what do you expect in an authoritarian regime? You know, these are people who believe that they would have several more decades outside of Chinese communist rule because, you know, Hong Kong was supposed to be separate. And then the Chinese came in and they said, no, you're not separate. We're in charge of you. The authoritarian, brutal dictatorship cracked down on them. And now the people of Hong Kong are protesting for their freedom. And can you blame them? I mean, imagine thinking you're going to be free. And then the Chinese come in and tell you, no, you're not. I mean, I'd protest it too. Can you blame them, really? No, of course not. So this guy, Daryl Morey, he's the general manager of the Houston Rockets, tweeted this, quote, "Fight for freedom, stand with Hong Kong." And that got him in a lot of trouble. Why did that get him in trouble? Because it is a great sin in the eyes of the NBA because the popularity of the NBA in China seems to create endless options, as the Seattle Times says. In other words, the NBA worked its way into Chinese markets, and they stand to lose a lot of cash, a lot of dough, if they upset the government of China, which is oppressing the people of Hong Kong, and are barred from the country. And in China, the government can absolutely cut the NBA out of the market because the Chinese government is authoritarian and the Chinese government has immense control over their subjects' lives, including what they are able to access on the internet. So the NBA has a lot to lose if one of their guys, one of their coaches, is saying, I stand with the people of Hong Kong. So the NBA, in reaction to that tweet, they went into crisis mode. We can't have something, they said, as pesky as advocating for freedom. We can't have that get in the way of our enormous piles of money. So they go into crisis mode and they completely throw themselves at the feet of the Chi-Com government. Oh, we're groveling at your feet. What do you need from us? They said, quote, "We recognize the views expressed by Houston Rockets general manager Daryl Morey have deeply offended many of our friends and fans in China, which is regrettable." Yeah, it's regrettable that some guy stands up for freedom. The NBA considers that regrettable. They continue, while Daryl has made it clear that his tweet does not represent the Rockets or the NBA, the values of the league support individuals educating themselves and sharing their views on matters important to them. We have great respect for the history and culture of China and hope that sports and the NBA can be used as a unifying force to bridge the cultural divides and bring people together. I mean, this is an incredible thing. You literally have the league coming out in support of the brutal, authoritarian Chinese government and speaking out against the general manager who spoke out in favor of freedom. So since Morey, the general manager, clearly has no support at all in this, he eventually caves, unfortunately, and tweets out an apology. Quote, "I did not intend my tweet to cause any offense to Rockets fans and friends of mine in China. I was merely voicing one thought based on one interpretation of one complicated event. I have had a lot of opportunities since that tweet to hear and consider other perspectives. I have always appreciated the significant support our Chinese fans and sponsors have provided, and I would hope that those who are upset will know that offending or misunderstanding them was not my intention. My tweets are my own and in no way represent the Rockets or the NBA." Yikes, dude. You really just caved? You came out in support of freedom, in support of people having agency, and you apologized for it because your globalist corporate sponsor wasn't in favor of it? You came out and apologized for advocating for freedom. You sound like a kicked dog. This sort of groveling is pathetic. And notice he used that standard weird apology you always hear when the progressive cult demands repentance. He says he has since heard. He has heard the voices and he has considered others' perspectives, meaning, I thought one way and I've since been informed that my thoughts do not toe the line sufficiently enough and I wasn't educated in the progressive Bible, but now that I am and I realize what I must say to stand in favor. I'm a good little progressive. Please do not kick me to the curb. I'll do whatever I have to, even if it means standing against freedom. I promise never to think freely again. Just like in communist China, there is no room for dissent on the progressive left. Now, we know, of course, that the NBA is a very progressive organization. They pulled their business out of Charlotte during the whole transgender bathroom fiasco. Remember that nonsense? Oh, you don't want your kid having a grown man visit her in the women's bathroom? Oh, well, we are going to pull our company from your state. Remember that a few years ago? And in the NBA, their players are allowed to demonstrate for different causes to a degree, obviously. Back in 2014, remember, there were a bunch of players who wore T-shirts that said, "I can't breathe," and that was, of course, to support Eric Garner's family during their warm-up. They weren't fined for being out of uniform, and, quote, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver said he supports players voicing their opinions on social issues, but he would prefer they abide by the rules that stipulate players wear clothing made by Adidas, the league's official apparel provider. And that statement right there really demonstrates what this is all about. You are allowed to voice your opinion up until it affects the NBA's bottom line. And when considering that bottom line, it is okay to disregard the evil nature of your new business partner, China. China is a known human rights abuser, but I guess that doesn't matter to the NBA because they are doing the people of China a favor. And what better way to distract yourself from the fact that 1 million of your fellow countrymen, are in concentration camps? Don't want to acknowledge that? Don't want to speak out against that because it hurts your bottom line? People are in concentration camps in China because of their religion, but you can't pay attention to that because of a little basketball? I mean, what better way to take a break from the stresses of your neighbor getting disappeared than watching some people play hoops? At what point do we stop salivating over the billion potential Chinese wallets, a country that's not even ours, but they just want the money? At what point do we stop paying attention to them and doing it to extract from and start demanding that if the Chinese government wants all the benefits of participation in our Western society, then they need to start upholding our values? All right? The NBA is an American company, and they should be ashamed of themselves for throwing the American value of free speech, of freedom, under the bus. The pace with which members of the NBA jumped to apologize for a free American speaking his mind in America is sickening. It shows that the NBA, like Amazon, like all of these globalist corporations, these multinational corporations, is unpatriotic. They are unpatriotic organizations that take everything they can from America, but have no allegiance to the values of this country that made their organization what it is.